Huge machines the size of other submarines lie deep in the black waters below. Meet the Typhoon-class submarines, the biggest subs ever built and a marvel of military and engineering power. Developed during the Cold War, this huge underwater car is more than a simple submarine. It's a real citadel that floats at the bottom of the ocean and is a real beast that can survive, overcome, and get ahead of almost everything on Earth. This engineering weight, this power, and the intriguing history of the building are some of its incredible characteristics. Developed during one of the most stressful moments of the Cold War, the Soviet Union created the Typhoon-class submarine, also known as Akula, meaning shark in Russian. At its height, the Cold War pitted the USSR against the US, and the US was about more than simply space exploration and nukes. It was also a competition to rule the seas. A sub that can conceal itself from NATO and launch long-range ballistic missiles was required by the Soviet Union. The intention was crystal clear: to continue nuclear deterrence by being able to attack from wherever at any times, including under the polar ice caps. The Soviet response to the Ohio-class ballistic missile submarines built in the U.S. was the Typhoon. The Soviets set out to create something that could not only match but also surpass the catastrophic nuclear assaults that American subs were already capable of. Now enter the Typhoon, a submarine that was enormous rather than just being big. 5 further Typhoon-class submarines were launched after the 1980 launch of Dmitry Donskoy, the class's initial vessel. These submarines were constructed to function under ice, which made them ideal for the Arctic settings of the Soviet Union. Their primary purpose was to act as nuclear deterrents. Their capacity to carry an incredible quantity of nuclear missiles, guaranteeing they could launch a potential counterattack if necessary, is what set them apart. Every Typhoon sub served as a sort of floating insurance policy against the Cold War, guaranteeing that the Soviet Union would always be ready to deal devastating blows to its adversaries. The Sevmash shipyard in Severodvinsk, Russia, which is renowned for building some of the Soviet Union's most cutting-edge military warships, is where the Typhoon-class subs were constructed. This type of submarine construction called for an entirely new methodology. The Typhoon was more than just an enlarged version of earlier subs. Thanks to its distinctive twin hull design, it was able to withstand the extreme pressures of the deep sea without losing structural integrity. The Typhoon was more resistant to damage than conventional single-hull subs because of its twin-hull construction, which added additional protection. Even if one hull got damaged, the ship could still be kept afloat by the other. The Typhoon-class submarine measures 574 feet long and 75 feet broad, or almost the same as 2 big planes parked nose to tail. However, it's not only the length that's impressive. The submarine is the heaviest ever constructed, dislocating over 48,000 tons while submerged. That's almost equal to the weight of 65 fully loaded Boeing 747s, to put it in perspective. The Typhoon-class submarine has an interesting fact. It's around 574 feet long, or the length of 2 football fields. For something meant to go discreetly across the ocean, that is an amazing size. The Typhoon's living area is yet another intriguing feature of its design. In contrast to most military subs, which are frequently characterized as claustrophobic and uncomfortable, the crew of the Typhoon enjoys surprisingly high levels of comfort abroad. These were some of the most livable subs ever created, complete with saunas, gyms, even swimming pools. These comforts were vital for morale maintenance, as the crew would be submerged for months at a time. The 2 nuclear reactors that power the Typhoon-class sub have a combined power output of 190 megawatts. The crew's endurance and the availability of supplies are the only things that prevent the submarine from emerging from the water for months at a time due to these reactors. Nuclear-powered subs like a Typhoon have the ability to stay below indefinitely, unlike diesel subs that must surface or use a snorkel to replenish their batteries. Because of this, it's a very covert platform for carrying out covert operations or surprise strikes. A Typhoon is able to maintain long-term underwater operations and able to achieve remarkable speeds for a vehicle of its size, thanks to the 2 OK-650 nuclear reactors. The submarine moves ahead thanks to turbines powered by steam produced by the reactors heating water. The Typhoon class can go up to 22 knots when surfaced and 27 when submerged thanks to this configuration, which is a remarkable accomplishment for such a large ship. The Typhoon class's nuclear propulsion not only made it extremely durable and efficient, but it also made it possible for the submarine to stay undetected beneath the surface of the ocean for months at a time. Its capacity to operate almost anywhere in the world without having to surface for air or refuel gave it an edge over aircraft. This allowed it to avoid notice and guarantee its survival in even the most dangerous environments. The weaponry of the Typhoon-class sub is one of the most important features. These submarines were built to be equipped with an intimidating stockpile of nuclear weapons. Up to 20 ballistic missiles, also referred to as the SSN-20 Sturgeon by NATO, could be carried by each Typhoon. The sub's twin hulls housed these enormous missiles in vertical launch silos. With 10 nuclear warheads per missile, the Typhoon was a floating armory with unfathomable destructive power. Each missile can reach targets of up to 8,300 kilometers or 5,157 miles away, making them ideal for long-range attacks. This means that a Typhoon-class sub could hit targets on the opposite side of the planet precisely with missiles fired from anywhere in the world, including under the polar ice caps. Together with land-based ICBMs and strategic bombers, the Typhoon-class subs were among the most dreaded elements of the Soviet Union's nuclear triad due to their potential. The Typhoon also had torpedoes on board to defend against attacks while being submerged. The main purpose of these weapons was defense. They were meant to keep hostile surface ships or subs from pursuing the Typhoon. These defense mechanisms, along with the Typhoon sub's enormous size and capacity to run on ice, rendered them all unbeatable. Fun fact, the Typhoon-class submarine's capacity to function in the Arctic ice is one of its greatest features. It was designed to fire nukes when buried under the Arctic's dense ice. The Typhoon-class submarine is a military vessel, no question, but it's also a human being. Living quarters aboard these subs are far more comfortable than what one might imagine for a military vessel, as they were built for extended patrols that lasted several months. A Typhoon submarine can accommodate up to 160 men, and during long missions, the designers of the submarine took great care to make sure these sailors would have all they needed to stay healthy and active. In contrast to many other subs, which are small and stuffy, the Typhoon's living quarters are rather roomy. In addition to common places for recreation, certain Typhoon subs are equipped with luxurious features including spas, gyms, and libraries. These facilities were essential to preserving the crew's health during extended submersion times. Although living in a submarine is never easy, the Typhoon-class subs were built with the crew's comfort in mind. With the end of the Cold War in the late 80s and early 90s, the Typhoon-class subs lost some of their strategic significance. Such enormous submarines required expensive maintenance, and the geopolitical environment had changed. Only one Typhoon-class submarine, the Dmitry Donskoy, is still in service today after the Russian Navy retired most of them by the early years of the 20th century. Even the Dmitry Donskoy, though, had been stripped of her original role as a nuclear deterrent and transformed to act as a test platform for upcoming missile systems and other naval technologies. These legacies endure even if the Typhoon class is no longer in service. They're the epitome of Cold War sub-design, a time when both superpowers made investments to ensure they could retaliate in the case of a confrontation, and there was a real danger of a nuclear war. The Typhoon-class sub is a monument to the drive and inventiveness of Cold War-era engineering. It's one of the most powerful submarines ever imagined due to its massive size, amazing power, and sophisticated capabilities. Everything about the Typhoon is larger than life, from its twin-hull construction, which gives it extraordinary strength, to its nuclear reactors, which allow it to operate for months underwater, to its fearsome arsenal of missiles. Even though the Typhoon's role as the main nuclear deterrent may have ended, its legacy still lives on. It's like a marvel that fascinates engineers and military aficionados alike, a memory of the perilous and tense times during the Cold War, and a symbol of what human engineering is capable of. We're committed to releasing 3 videos a week. Like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more luxury videos.